All right, should we now be live? So basically, we're just going to chat about the recent Pork tournament, which was last weekend, yesterday and the day before in Bath, Iran. We've got Jake Courtine on this time.
Good evening.
Yeah, and we've got Henry Miller back again. And we're basically going to talk. He's here mainly because we borrowed his scenarios of this event that he's using next weekend. So very briefly, we're going to go through who did well at the event. So winner was Colin Power with his ridiculous 21 drop lizards list, which was kind of silly but fun. Next, Slatch came second with his ogres. It was a sort of gut star list. It was pretty fun. And then I think John came next with his fairly sort of like balanced MSU Highborn elves. So I think
Highborn elves came out well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So, I mean, Jake, up to you. You play Saurians. You're playing sort of a more fun double alpha Carno list. But what are your thoughts on Colin's list overall?
It was a concept taken to an extreme, but as with any list Colin writes, it was concept taken to extreme with a mind for still remaining very competitive. Colin's idea of a fluff list isn't exactly the same as anyone else's.
By the way. That's a running joke, to be fair, but yeah.
It is, but it's also true, or at least has its roots in truth. The power behind it was essentially an enormous amount of double fleeing combined with combination charges backed by divination, and just the fact that it was playing in an environment where most of its opponents had very few units to use relative to his number, because they'd taken the list in theme with the event. And so there were no points really for hard targets to track down, and he could concentrate fire on almost whatever he liked, combined with swamping the objectives. So he did actually kill most of his opponent's armies, as far as I can tell. But also, I think some things in a conventional meta would give that build problems. I think you can tone that build down, build a few other things into it, and it becomes a very competitive list. But here, it played very well into the meta of this event.
All right. I agree almost entirely. I'm just going to welcome Tom Taylor to the call.
Good evening.
I can't hear him because his mic is off.
I can see his face.
Yep, I can see his face. It sounds like he can hear me. He's trying to fix his mic. It's still not working. Still can't hear him. Right, we'll come back to him when he can talk to us, because I'm sure he'll interrupt me anyway.
So what kind of matchups did this list have? Who did he play against?
Right, I can go back in, put up my spreadsheet, and we can have a look. What I was just going to ask very briefly is to sort of, Jake, sort of carry on from what you're saying just about the list in general. Do you think that the scenarios that we were playing, that we can discuss a bit in a second, favour it more than the out-of-the-book scenarios, or similar?
So out-of-the-book banners is worse for it.
Yeah.
Out of the book, let's think this through. Out of the book breakthrough, it plays well. You can build this to do it better, but certainly very well. But this version of breakthrough was even better than normal breakthrough for it. 2 pennies in normal scenarios would be very playable with that style of list. And hold center, which we didn't play, the lack of hold center, I think, probably played into its hands a little.
Mm.
Like, it can play hold center, don't get me wrong, just it's probably less good as it was at these scenarios.
Okay. Right, so I'm literally just putting up a screen share of my...
Actually, no, I think I'm wrong on that. I think it can play hold center very well. I think its ability to play scenarios is much of the strength of the list, combined with the fact that if the opponent tries to play the scenarios, then it can combo charge and shoot things. And
I mean, it just has so much scoring, essentially, and it's part of the problem, and the fact that an awful lot of the units are sort of do well on their own, like a lot of the Cayman units do well on their own, and then if you buff them with any sort of spells, they suddenly become a bit mental.
Okay, but equally, there was nobody there with both the player skill, given Colin is very, very good.
Yep.
And also the list to capitalize on the list's single weak point being the slan.
For sure, yeah. Right, so very briefly, just going to go through his matchups. So should have the Excel spreadsheet up here. So round one, he managed to play Phil for basically a tabling, but he must have lost an area. So which is surprising, but that's
Was that the Bill O'Reilly's list?
yeah.
That was the one I said was not that good, I think.
Yeah, which I think 15-5 in the end is a pretty good result, but he must have scrounged scenario away.
I've not got the list up in front of me, I've got to say. So,
Phil O'Reilly's list was a Rat Ogre, pretty decent block of Rat Ogres, some big infantry blocks with meat grinders, double
okay.
double treadmill, and some bits and pieces. So it's not enough plate fanatics basically to be scary, probably.
That's what I said.
Yeah, it's pretty much true. So that was his first round opponent. His second round opponent was Slatch with Ogres.
Slatch came second, right?
Slatch came second. This was a 19-1 victory to Colin with 4,500 VPs. So again, most of the army came off the table there.
Ogre's Lizards has always been favourable for the Lizards.
Absolutely, I agree with that. Round 3, he got the got Marcus Lake's Demons, which honestly, he did Courtesan, didn't he? Which I, again, feel like that was the main focus of the list, and there probably wasn't enough units in that to take advantage.
I really, really like Marcus's list. I think it's extremely strong. I think this is a bad matchup for it, and it's one of the few cases where the Bloodthirster is miles better than the Kiefer.
Yeah, probably true. Ultimately, I just think Marcus's list essentially has lots of units in it, which again hold their own. But the trouble is, the Lizards had that many more of those same kind of units.
Yes.
I think. Then it was Colin Power against Jeff Keeling, so Beast Hers against Saurian Ancients. Jeff's list is not bad at all. Had some centaurs in it, had lots of ambushing, which again I think is pretty strong in this scenario pack. Will give you options anyway.
Certainly feels like the hardest of the matches he's played so far in terms of list, if not player. Sorry, that's not meant to insult Jeff. He's good, but
yeah,
he's probably not got the record that Slatch or Marcus have.
No, I think that's fair. But a few bits and pieces in his list that could probably do the optimizing, but ultimately it was not a bad list. But still, 4,500 VPs nearly, and a 19-1. So
I gather some Caymans ate the Beast Lord Chariot, which is about the only thing the Lizards care about, really.
Yeah, pretty much. I think some buffs went off and then they just creamed it to pieces. So, that happened. And then a 10-10 draw because he was so far ahead in the final round. He actually got docked painting points and I didn't tell him. So he nearly lost the tournament on that. But, oh well. He got away with it. So, the last round is not as representative because I think if they're both going for it, it probably is a bit more swingy than that. Yeah, John Turner against Colin.
Yeah.
For the Elves. So, hard to say, but
it's interesting that the guy who won actually beat the guys who came in second and third place. Normally people kind of avoid each other.
Well, it's a smaller field as well, so
you have 18 people, right?
Yeah. So, and because of dropouts, 16 over on the morning of the second day. So
okay.
People had to end up playing each other a bit.
It's worth a shout out for the player who was too drunk to drive to the venue on the second day.
Yeah, good one, Mal. That's a good effort. Right, so we just sort of stay on topic. Just general thoughts on the scenarios themselves. So, Jake, since you were there, it has been said several times, but we'll repeat it again. The first scenario, which is the searching terrain with scoring units, works fine. However, you do need enough terrain on the table and probably a fairly nice and fair spread of terrain across the table.
You could probably play it with 6. I wouldn't want to play it with less than 6. 7 or 8 is better. And yes, a decent spread is required. It's also worth noting that at least on the table I played, there were a couple of giant buildings. And they were a pain in the backside because big buildings you can't easily walk through with infantry units without going around the corners. And were a lot harder to score. Also noting again that buildings are harder to score for armies with less infantry. I wouldn't want to take, for example, cavalry KOE into that scenario with buildings on the table.
Yeah. I mean, I intended the scenario that you could just kind of like walk through the corner of the building.
Yeah,
rather than having the unit go through the whole way.
You can on some things. It's just in the table I played, for example, there were some sort of 8-inch square buildings, which...
And I take entire responsibility for that. I obviously knew what the scenarios were, but hadn't really considered probably that more terrain would have made the scenarios more interesting.
But I mean, don't get me wrong. That was against my advantage, and I still won scenario. So it's not the end of the world. But
what do you think about the idea of? I don't know if everyone played it because people may have overlooked it, but the extra D3 wounds for going through terrain for non-scoring units.
Well, given I charged a unit with an Alpha Carnosaur, so I charged 10 warriors in the flank with an Alpha Carnosaur, wheeled to contact and just clipped to the back corner, lost 3 wins off it, and the 2 warriors did the final 2 wins on the Alpha before I got to strike. I'm happy with it. And I had a full magic phase to heal it and get any spells off as well.
Well,
so, yeah, that went a bit wrong.
If I'm honest, the scenario itself was written to counter characters on, like solo characters on mounts. That was the reason behind the scenario. So I guess it kind of worked in that respect.
Oh, yeah. It's quite funny in retrospect. More seriously, with reasonable sized pieces of terrain, I think it works quite well. With a few of the tables had giant bits of terrain, which I'm realizing you can't do much about as TO with unless you've got a big terrain field. But for example, like GW sized hills cover quite a lot of the table in an area you just can't go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I 100% agree with that. I think with no restriction on what kind of terrain you've got available, if you've got lots of nice sized or sensible sized terrain, as in what they describe in the rulebook, that would have worked absolutely well. I do like the idea that it counters particularly things like Lizardman Cowboys that a lot of people like to put out as being the main offender. But I mean, there's more than that. Just that there's
my biggest issues with this scenario are actually only from the mindset of a competitive player, and only from the mindset of a competitive player who reads things into the rules.
Yeah.
So for somebody who's playing a fluff game and doesn't mind just picking how they interpret it, it's fine. But there were a number of bits of loose rule writing which don't make clear what the intention is behind the scenario. So, without meaning to insult the dear authors here,
no problem. Go ahead because it's important. I can rewrite them a little before the event.
Okay.
Make it more sense.
First off, it's not clear what happens if you start in a piece of terrain by deploying in it.
I think it says. I think it actually says including, like, if that is in the deployment phase, then you get hits.
I don't see that in the version that was printed out, but maybe I just wasn't reading.
In the version I've got, which is the version 1.1, which is the most recent one I found. The only time you take damage is when a non-strong unit enters a piece of terrain.
Does it not say in the next sentence this could be in the deployment phase?
No, I don't think it does. Not in this version. It's possible we had an old version, so that might have been part of it.
So again, that doesn't mean that if you start in it, so if you enter it in one turn, you take the hits, but then if you charge out of it or leave it for any reason, do you take the hits again? I was playing in theory, yes, but rules as written at the moment, no.
It says that it should say in the tournament pack that if you've taken hits from a piece of terrain, you don't take any more hits on that unit.
Okay. That's useful to know. And again,
that's one ruling. I mean, you can play it. I guess that's one way of doing it, and that seems fair.
Because, for example, the way we were playing it with my opponent, I took it if I started the game in it, but not if I vanguarded out first, just because that seemed to make sense to us and it wasn't really written down.
Yeah, I mean, again, so there's so many things with this, and the guys have played a few games with it to try and sort of test it, but obviously not everything's going to come up. You're not necessarily going to see it all until it's been played, which is it's quite interesting to do, really.
Similarly, flying over it, things like that, edge cases. Relatedly, there was a second one. This is very obscure. So there's the wording about models that are not scoring but placed within units don't suffer hits so long as the unit has 1 rank.
Mm-hmm.
Now, consider my Alpha Carnosaur. So that is within a unit, which is a unit of 1 Alpha Carnosaur, and has 1 full rank. So by rules as written, it doesn't take hit. Now, I wasn't ever going to play that or try to call that, but again, under rule of Narg. Right.
Yeah, you're right, 100%.
Yeah, so that sounds, and you are right to probably not play it that way because that's definitely not what's intended. But you're right, 100%. That is correct, as it's written. So yeah, I'm sure that's something we can clear up. We'll just quickly go on to the second one, and blitz through is a bit quicker. But essentially, the second one was the diagonal deployment with a sort of an exclusion zone in the middle, circular exclusion zone, and you get a different amount of points for controlling segments of the board at the end of the game. So 3 for your opponents, 1 for the adjacent ones, and 1 for your own, and 2 for the adjacent ones to your deployment zone. So sort of like a throwback to some older editions of Warhammer sort of scenarios, I think.
So immediate instincts. Oh, sorry. Just go back to the previous scenario for a second. I really liked
Yeah.
it. So pickiness about rules aside, it was really good fun.
Cool.
And just one question about the first scenario.
Yep.
I mean, we're trying to make like a narrative type hobby event ish, but still remain competitive. Do you think that it added a narrative feel to the game?
Approximately, yes. My narrative brain, which does exist somewhere in the back of it, said, "Why on earth are my lizards getting bitten by wildlife?" Especially, for example, my snake swarms, which should be biting the wildlife. But other than that, no, it fitted. It built a narrative. I would agree with that. Yes.
Perfect.
Oh, that was the other confusion with it. I misread the scenario before the event and thought once a piece of terrain was searched, that it had been searched, your opponent couldn't then search it, which was completely wrong, and it's not at all what it says. But I suspect you'll find like 2 or 3 people at the tournament, over 100 people, who have misread it the same way I did.
Okay. Okay. I think we also at our tournament at Giant Fanatic, we also have some battlefield condition cards.
Oh, nice.
And one of so you get to play a card every game basically, and one of the cards is basically says, I don't want to play this scenario, it's a normal game. So that we kind of left ourselves a loophole that if the players really don't like the look of the scenarios, or they think it's too funky, or they don't understand it, they can just play that card and then you play a normal scenario.
Okay, that's quite a cool idea. I like that. I doubt many people will do that on the first one because it's fun. Well, they're all fun, but some of them in different ways to others.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to move on to the second one then, it's a little bit more straight up with just capturing table quarters. I think the main thing which is interesting, because all the diagonal deployment games always have this, the rush distance is really short. So you have got potential for first turn charges or very early combat.
Yeah, you get really close on those corners.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing.
No.
At all. But I mean, I've got nothing wrong with the scenario. I think it's just a little bit simpler, and which is fine. I've got not much more to add. I think I just thought it worked. But
yeah, it's simple, elegant, works really well, assuming you're playing armies that maneuver. I can see classic dwarf players utterly hating it because they just can't play it.
Isn't that a good thing, though?
Possibly, yes. Depends if you're the dwarf player.
Yeah, I think a lot of the scenarios, as Henry was saying, are to sort of try and break apart really horrible, not necessarily like broken army lists, because abusive army lists aren't necessarily very fun to play.
Yeah, that was definitely something we were considering when we were writing the scenarios for the event. Like, we were kind of thinking about like corner lists and gun lines. We kind of want to encourage people to move onto the table and fight.
Yeah.
Which, funny enough, sorry, Jake. Funny enough, if anyone's seen the new scenarios that are being that have been sort of pre-released in the news section of the Ninth Age website, some of the new scenarios are definitely going that way as well, to try and limit corner deployments and very, very negative play, which I think is very good to see too. So.
Yeah, agreed. It looks like it's getting used to, but it'd be interesting. Yeah, I think actually the armies that have bigger problems, given that we're okay with hitting sort of corner armies, would be things like Orc and Goblin armies that are very leadership reliant and tend to play in a reasonably compact area of the board.
Okay.
That might not be a bad thing, and they can just play I don't want to play the scenario card. But if you're not one of those armies that are special cases, it's probably one of the simpler, quicker to play scenarios, which is well placed as second after the first one, which is more complex. And yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay. So just scenario 3 then. Scenario 3 was the 3 marker. So it's very similar to secured target, except that you draw a line between the 2 markers, and you've got to place a third marker in the middle of these 2. And the interesting thing about this is that if either player controls all 3 markers at any one time, from turn 3 onwards, they immediately win the objective. So you can't sort of just camp out and hold on until the late game. You've got to play early on, and it even encourages you to be potentially aggressive and maybe swipe it away. I don't know if that happened at all in the event. I didn't actually hear about it, but I'm sure it could happen.
I was too busy playing to pay attention to the other tables, unfortunately, in this one. It didn't happen in my game. In fact, I think we drew the scenario.
Was it ever a factor that you thought might have happened at all? Or?
There was one turn where I had to deliberately play to avoid it happening, but it was reasonably simple for me to do that.
Well, I think that's already a good thing, right? That you've actually got Jeopardy in the middle of the game and not just at the end of turn 6.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'd had a Saurus unit sitting slightly further than 6, right? I moved it forward a bit. But yeah, you know, it was relevant.
Yeah, cool.
This was a scenario that we took from the tournament the previous year, and I quite liked it, so we kept it in. And in last year, the last year that I played and actually won the tournament, we played this in game 3, and I was running Sylvan Elf list with archers, and one of my archer units had the Triple March banner. And there was a moment in the game, I think it was about turn 3 or turn 4, where I could have won the scenario. All I needed to do was triple march onto one of the objectives. And then I kind of said to my opponent, okay, I've got the triple march banner here. I'm going to march onto the objective and win the objective. And he's like, okay, you're going to take a march test for my Yetis or something? I was like, okay. And I failed my march test.
Oops.
Yeah, so that was a bit annoying. But I still won the game, so it's fine.
But again, I guess that's where hidden lists sort of come into it, because if those have been open, your opponent may have seen that coming or may have played a game around it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, hidden lists are great. Say whose opponent cast Glory of Gold on their unit fighting the Alpha Carnosaur with Fireball.
Whoops.
He was not happy.
I know.
Did he kill it?
Eventually, 2 turns later, when it wore off.
Oh dear. Was there any other moments like that in the tournament?
I didn't hear of any, weirdly.
Not for me. I only played 2 actual games because of dropouts, and I got a different spare player for the Sunday. So the 3 games I've played with my Dragon list is 20-0, 0, 20, 0, 20. So it's a great start. So, I mean, mine was pretty straight up, so not particularly. I mean, the only thing was the Terry's dwarf list, which was, I would say, more of like a meta dwarf list. It wasn't particularly funky, which was just 2 kings and 3 big blocks. Because you've got 2 kings, obviously, they're going to be ruined up, and not knowing which one's which is, I think, quite scary, because at the best of times, you don't want to throw expensive multi-win models into a D3 wins king.
Yeah.
But if you don't know which one's which, you really don't want to throw them into any of them. So I think that's quite a dangerous game.
Actually, I don't know if he got anything with it, but I know Marcus was running Obsidian Horn on his keeper, just to throw people's maths out.
Oh, okay.
What does that?
But I don't. Stops things in contact with it using the BSB reroll.
Ah, that's sneaky.
Yeah, but I didn't hear any stories about him getting anyone with it, but I think he was trying to.
That could have been a good one. So we're just gonna move on to scenario 4, because we all like scenario 3. But scenario 4 was.
Sorry, quickly on scenario 3. The one thing I will say is I do find it very interesting how it massively encourages you to play linearly across the table across a line of objectives, which is something you never see in normal play. And that makes it feel probably the most different of any of the scenarios here from the conventional. I actually quite liked it. I probably think this was my favourite of the scenarios, precisely because it made the game flow so differently from.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to take as many photos as I could for Twitter and other things. And the main thing I like about diagonal deployments, or I mean, this was classic deployment, but about deployment types or scenarios that make you have to deploy in more of a battle line, is it just makes the game look so nice, like a proper armies clashing. And that's ultimately why people play the game, right? You know.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting point. And with the hobby element of the game, that's quite a nice side effect.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I saw on day 2 when I was taking a lot more photos because I wasn't playing. So that would be scenario 4, which is, again, it was a diagonal deployment, wasn't it? So essentially was secure target, but with an extra gimmick where each objective is actually a fulcrum that gives you +1 to cast, and if you +1 to cast and dispel, and if you miscast, you get an extra dice. Which, speaking to a few players, Slash nearly took the ogre item that gives you an extra dice if you miscast, just for the scenario, which I thought was quite an interesting idea. Because I think it's worth taking advantage of. Like, it's not a massive difference, but it comes into play if you've got to weigh up whether it's worth you doing or not. And it's not. I quite like just scenarios that change the game, but not completely. Like, add a twist without having people having to relearn a whole scenario, sort of thing.
Okay, so to me, I mean, like the alternating of particularly funky scenario and variant on the normal way you play, it makes the event flow quite well, because it means you don't get overwhelmed with, oh, this is really, really weird, this is really, really weird, but you still keep the hobby feel of the event. In actual fact, I think from my game, we completely forgot about the casting change for the Fulcrum game. Well, no, until about turn 5, when I remembered to remind my opponent. But and I doubt I'm the only one who did that.
Oh, almost certainly. Yeah, again, that was what I was just going to point out. I agree with. One of the most difficult things if you're trying to do funky scenarios is, particularly for my events, where I get a lot of people who don't play that often, it's a big enough ask for them to come in and know their own army, let alone their opponents, and then if you've got to learn a new scenario on the top of the head as well at the same time, it just becomes a bit much. In fact, most of these were sort of approachable. I think was a big help.
The value you could get in buying into this one is if you can get people to buy in enough to bring modelled Fulcrum scenario markers, because that, if people are doing that, then they'll tend to remember.
That'd be cool. I might actually make some.
That would be nice, but the problem, I would have loved to make some, but when you have 50 tables.
Yeah. No, I meant to try and get the players to show up with them, see how many of them you can get to. Like, obviously not everyone will, but like.
Yeah, some people will have them anyway.
Yeah, like you can offer like a award for best Elkane Fulcrum or something, and
that would have been cool. Yeah, shame we should have thought about that before.
Well,
I've got time to make a few. I'll bring some. It's fine.
But yeah, I think
right. Yeah. So
what did you play for the last scenario?
Yeah, that's literally what I was going to go on with. So the last scenario. So Henry only provided 4 because he's doing a secret special a surprise one for his event. I went with you pick 2 after deployment. Each player picks 2 units. If they stay alive, you get 1 tolerant point per unit. And if you kill your opponent's ones, you steal away their tolerant points. So obviously your maximum swing is 4 points, like it was the whole event. And you can get any mix in between. So if you kept whether yours alive and killed 1, you got 3, and you got 1. So it wasn't an all win, all lost. It was a potentially mixed amount. And it's sort of a bit of a mix on like the banner scenario from the main rulebook, but but with more incentives to actually go out and kill your opponent's ones because you get more points for it. So
yeah, okay, that sounds fun.
It was also because it's the last game of the tournament, and I wanted to keep it a little bit simple and just go and kill stuff. Because a lot of people are either knackered or wanting to get home or wanting to push things around rather than think too hard. So that's what I went with.
Yeah, it was just an interesting little twist on the normal banner scenario. It was good to have a banners variant in there just to make people's list design a bit more interesting.
I think again it did help Colin's list with the lots of scoring units that even after deployment you can just go and hide the 2 that you didn't need and just play with 19 units. So
I can see how that list benefited from this scenario.
Yeah, I mean it's just it's I think on paper and a lot of people just look at it and just don't know what to think, and in a way that's the strength of it already. So
nobody ever used to know how to play against us.
There's a small change in the banner scenario in the Ninth Age rulebook with the new changes, and one of the changes is that you after deployment you choose the unit rather than before.
Oh, that's been the case.
So in that way, it is okay. Then maybe not then. But I was thinking that if it was before deployment, then you can always deploy behind a hill or something like that. And
it has been after deployment at least for a while, I believe. But in any case, that does at least limit the sort of negative play, which is obviously something you don't want to see. That's the main concern I have with that scenario. Is that it just means that some people choose to not use those units, which is kind of silly.
I mean, I don't know. I had 6 Saurus units, and I just deployed them in a line equally spaced along the back line and waited for my opponent to choose, and then used it, and then just moved all my mobile shit to get in the way. He deployed.
Right, Tom, are you with us or not?
Hello.
Oh,
hello.
Tom is here. Right. So Tom is a member of my club in Bath. Well, he turns up every now and then. He lives a long way away. You're running a
internet sensation on Amaton podcast.
Absolutely. Still there? He's still there.
Drinking his tea.
Yeah. Yep. Here.
Yeah. So just very briefly, the list you were running was Big Block of Trolls, lots of Lust Chosen, and a Demon Prince, which was on paper not a terrible list. However, in hidden lists, when people had hidden Fleming banners and DP Wound Kings, maybe not the best list.
Yeah, so I bought the. It's actually a copy of an ETC list. I kind of predicted that there'd be more pyromancy than there was. So you put the Magic Resistance 3 item on the BSB and then put him in with the trolls. So he's a trap for fireballs. But no one took pyromancy. And then, yeah, faced Terry. He had 2 characters with Dragon's Breaths and a Flame Standard on one of his units. And, yeah, it didn't go well for the trolls. But it was a fun game nonetheless. Yeah.
Yeah, that game went on a lot longer than I thought it ever had rights to, because I kept coming back to it, and like you lost sort of half your army and the trolls, which is probably more than half your army, in about the first 40 minutes, and you were still playing like an hour and a half later. And I was, how? Like, what's left?
The Demon Prince just pulled it out of the box, Jack. She just tore him up. Yeah, she even survived that game, which is quite rare for her. But yeah.
Yeah, the organ guns didn't take her off.
No, they took other stuff off, not her. Yeah.
Where did you finish, Tommy?
Don't know.
I can
Middle to low.
Tell you right now. Tom finished 12th out of 18.
Nearly top 10, mate. Not bad.
I won the first game, Henry, and that was all that was. Well, that was all that mattered.
Well, you got some coaching for that game.
Yeah. The coaching didn't matter too much. It was the luck that mattered.
I think it was my Alpha Carnosaur exploding, charging through a wood, and then 2 warriors.
Yeah, I think you did more damage to your own army than I did to yours, Jake.
Possibly. My favourite moment of the game was last turn when I used my other Alpha Carnosaur as chaff to stop you getting the objective.
Yeah.
It survived, but it was a dicey thing.
Did you play Phil round 2, Tom?
Yeah. That was a fun game. That's probably my favourite of the. That was my favourite of the scenarios because I think that one probably gives you the most opportunity to like play the movement game, if you know what I mean.
Which is the scoring corner.
Yeah. So I was able to sort of get around him the most, and we had a big fight in the middle, so that was probably the most fun.
Cool. Yeah, so I'm seeing you played Nick Vo, previous Pork Chop champion. Very good player. That looks grim, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And then Satyrus, no, not Satyrus, Adam Lake last game with Verminstorm, which was a lot of globes. He looked like he globed you.
Yeah, he just globed me off. Yeah, it was a fun game though. He killed like 18 or 20 of his own Vermin Guard by making a charge into some pointless barbarians with Break the Spirit on the unit. So that was funny.
Whoops. How about the trolls? Do you think a big unit of trolls has legs, especially with a character in there, or are they not any good?
Yeah, they are actually they're pretty good, but they are too expensive. But I think it's playable in maybe in a team event or something like that. But I don't know. Not in hidden lists, no.
So thoughts on taking out the Midlands in the team event? In 4-1 teams, you reckon? Give it a go?
It could be, yeah. I mean, I don't know. The Demon Prince is good, but she didn't do a lot because I just kept failing important charges all the time.
So this is a shamanism Demon Prince, which obviously probably anyone who watches this will realise, but the attribute on shamanism means you can't be winning on better than a 5+ in combat, which is usually bad because most wizards don't want to fight. But obviously, Demon Prince is pretty good in combat. Yeah,
it's really good in combat, but it's actually surprisingly slow because it doesn't have Swift Stride and it's only movement 8. Mm-hmm. And you obviously you have specific targets like opponents, lords, and monsters that you have to kill with the Demon Prince, and so your opponent knows that you're gunning for those particular models. And
yeah, because your list doesn't have a lord, so you're limited on what can actually take off a lord or any real monsters. So you're limited on what can take off sort of other monsters and or characters, really.
Yeah. I also took a Chimera for the first time, and that was really shit. But just it freeze. That thing is fucking rubbish.
It was a bit lonely in your list.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, it's also got regen, so I thought we'll just stack up on regens and hope no one takes too much flaming shit. But yeah, it's just so weak. It just dies really, really quickly.
Right, and since neither Jake nor Tom were here last time, very briefly, thoughts on 5,000 point list compared to 4,500. Me and we've already talked about it, but what are your thoughts?
Do you want to go first, Tom?
Yeah, I didn't really like it because quite a few of my games we were pushed for time, so I probably would stick with the 4,500 just for the time consideration alone. But I mean, it's fun just because it's different. But that's the only really the only thing I'd have to say on that.
Fair enough. We have a small issue in Denmark, I would say, with the length of games. At a normal 4,500 point tournament, there's always one or two guys in Denmark that play over 4-hour games, and so I'm slightly concerned that people are going to be playing a bit too slowly, and with 3.5-hour rounds, it might get have a lot of players playing over time.
To give you an idea, Henry, I played a sort of a throwaway game against the spare player because we didn't need him for the 5th game on Sunday. And we challenged ourselves. We actually had a time on my phone. We played every turn in 8 minutes. If we could do it, and we got most of the way through it. The last few turns where there's more combat was a bit more difficult. But the first sort of 8 player turns, probably all got done in under 8 minutes. I think my record was 5 minutes 6 seconds for.
How long did the game take?
I ended up taking a bit of a while because I ended up having a TO at the end. But yeah, we probably could have played the whole game in 90 minutes.
Okay.
But yeah.
So if anyone from Denmark's listening, then you have no excuse.
No excuse in playing me. That's eating into beer time. Anyway, Jake.
Yes.
Get thoughts.
Okay, 5K. Immediate instinct is it's less balanced than 4.5, funnily enough, because the game's not designed for it. On the other hand, it's a good laugh to do occasionally. Like, I'm glad there was a 5K event I got to play because it let people play with toys they couldn't have otherwise. But I wouldn't want most events to be 5K. It feels it's like it's open to abuse for people who don't get into the spirit of the event, and there are a few armies that will just be able to overpower a particular phase in a way that they can't necessarily do at 4,500 because weather restrictions fall. So if you get one dickhead who ruins it for everyone, then they've got more power to do so than they do at 4,500. On the other hand, if people get in the spirit of it and do something creative with it, then you're also going to see some different things you don't see normally and have a good laugh with it. So the occasional event taken in the right spirit, I think it's great, but I wouldn't want to play it all the time.
Yeah, which I think is ultimately the conclusion we came to. I think me and Henry both agree that tournaments work better on 4,500 points because you generally have to make at least one hard choice on whether you're going to take this option or this option. You can't take both. Whereas in 5,000, you can just about squeeze in both of those strong options. In a lot of cases, I'm being very vague, but that's the way it feels to me a lot of the time.
Did anyone feel that some armies were better than others at 5,000 points?
It did feel like it was armies that could take more of a particular kind of thing and overpower a phase, as I say. So adding an extra threat to a warriors list, for example, was a big deal, as I found out to my detriment. Or the armies that can just fit in something extra that they don't normally fit, an extra cannon or two cannons and a tank or whatever. I don't know if those are actually any good, but it will be those edge cases that matter.
I honestly think I think beasts can actually get a lot out of it because a lot of the units are individually quite sort of like they hold their own. And I think if you're getting 500 points, you can get another 2 units that are sizable, like another 2 ambushers or another chariot and some centaurs or something like that. I don't know. I think you get quite a lot of money for that extra 500.
I was slightly surprised to see no double-crested demon.
Yeah, I think Marcus wanted to do it.
Is that possible? Is that possible at 5,000?
I mean, it's technically possible at 1,800, I believe, but it just you get no toys. Whereas at 5,000, sorry, 1,800 is in 4,500 percentage. But at 5,000, you get a few more of the toys on them.
Okay.
Like they're not completely
terrible. No. You take some people by surprise for sure.
Well, the thing is, you get that and an army. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And was there any kind of general trends? Was there like Saurian Ancients all at the top, or the vampires all at the bottom, anything like that?
Too small a field is my honest answer. Just the error bars are colossal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think ultimately Ninth Age has proved as a game system with the more of an accent on scenarios, and with the scenario pack with being 4 points the swing for scenarios, any army which can put self-sufficient good scoring on the board is strong. So I think Saurian Ancients, just purely because Saurus are so good for their points and their score, I think are pretty good.
I mean, for a long time, I was doing well with 3 scoring in Blizzard's army. Like, you can play low scoring numbers in 4,500 with the traditional scenarios. These scenarios, I don't think you could have gotten away with that. Not with the extra points as well. And in particular, a couple of these scenarios, by which I mean the quarters one and the walk through terrain and search it one, massively favour beasts in particular due to ambushing, cheap ambushing scoring. Nobody really abused
it's definitely something that came up.
Yeah, but Terry Flaherty only had, I think, 4 scoring units, and he did really well. I think he came 4th.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you need lots and lots of scoring units. I think it's more important that you have like good scoring units.
Yeah, I think you're. Yeah, it's very true. I think a lot of people actually try to fight Terry's list, where
don't do that.
Yeah, when you've got not quick, no seeker dwarfs, you just don't fight them and just run around them, pick off what you can, and try and win objective. Like
was that the list that you played, Jack, in the first turn?
Yeah.
First game.
Yeah, so I played Terry and I forced him and I took him off. So basically he failed a sort of a 6-inch overrun, which obviously you should make, but obviously it's not guaranteed. From that point on, I combo charged the world into that unit and shredded it, and then basically got to pick the fights I wanted after that. And took off the organ guns quite early, which is because my list has got so many flying things that can eat them. So that was basically how that went well. And got the idea of the zombie dragon list is you get a dragon and or shrieking horror into a unit and then tag zombies on the corner to break steadfasts, which is basically what happened. And so I took one unit off that way and then just whittled the other ones down by sort of trying to avoid the king, obviously, because you don't want to fight him with your vampire on a very expensive dragon. So put him on the other corner. But yeah, so essentially that's how I managed to do it. But it's not guaranteed. I mean, if his organ guns had hit a bit better, it would have been okay. I think vampires actually probably struggle a little bit in some of the scenarios because the scoring is quite slow, unless you're taking like Baronites. But Baronites don't do well on their own. They need to be either be babysat by things, or you need to write your entire list around them.
Maybe Vampire Knights.
Yeah.
Or Vampire Knights, true. But they are incredibly expensive and
Very good.
Very good.
I ran 2 units at warm-up. They were really good.
Yeah. Chapman quite likes them. I'm not sure. Don't talk from Black Dark coaches because he's scarred forever now. But yeah, no, Vampire Knights are pretty legit. I actually don't own any, so it's also why I don't run them. But I've also got a bit fallen in love with the Shrieking Horrors, so I just refuse to take anything else at the moment. So
I think just lastly about your tournament, we talked about 3 matchups in the first round. Shall we talk about them and see if we got it right?
yeah, I don't remember which ones they were. So
We talked about, I think, Slatch. So he was playing ogres against a warriors player, and that was sounded like quite a good matchup.
Yeah, so that ended up as a 15-5 to Slatch. I can actually just show the round 1 matchups. Yeah, so Slatch it's 15-5 to Slatch. I think Slatch does this thing where he attempts big long charges, shouts about it a lot, and then somehow makes it in. So no disrespect to him, but no, I mean, if you take the chances and it comes off, power to you, really. But yeah, if ogres get in on top of warriors and they roll lots of impact hits, then things go quite well, which I think is ultimately what happened. For that points differential, it looks like Nick might have got scenario. It's nearly 4,000 to 1,500, so
Can't have gotten scenario. Might have drawn it, but
yeah, it could have been a draw. Sorry, yeah.
yeah, that those numbers say drawn scenario.
Sorry, yeah, draw. Yeah, so ultimately looks fairly bloody, but not crazy. But I think pretty much what we predicted, it would be a lot of points on both sides. But
Yeah, I think I said that the Warriors could win that one, but I wasn't sure.
I think it's a tough ask against the Death Star that Slatch is running.
Yeah, it's a shame that we don't know too much about the game with the magic and stuff.
Yeah, would have been nice to have one of those guys on, but obviously it's difficult. But no, it's
Well, luckily for us, the second game that we predicted, that we have both players on.
we do. And that's almost as bloody, actually. So
Yeah, I
poor
think
old
this
Jake
is
got trolled hard.
exactly what I predicted. I think I said Tommy it's about a 10-10 and Tommy should win the scenario.
I think, in matter of fact, I lost a lot more points, but 1 scenario.
Yeah, that's what
Okay.
happened.
Damn it.
yeah, so it's a 3,500 to 1,300, 3,500 for Tom and 1,300 for Jake. And then Jake must have obviously won scenario to even that up a bit more.
So
Yeah,
what actually happened then, guys? I know you said that one of the Carnosaurs got killed mostly by the terrain. What happened to the other one?
It took
Ran away like a little bitch.
it took 5 wounds and 2 castings to swarm of insects and went and hid behind a hill. I figured break the spirit was more important to stop.
Yeah. And did the Warriors fight the Saurus?
Probably at some point. Mostly my Saurus, I ran around the place trying to get into terrain and block him off from.
Okay, interesting. So you're actually using your scoring units to defend the terrain.
I'm using anything I could to defend the terrain. My early strategy was, if it ever looks like he's going to go in a piece of terrain, throw the kitchen sink at it to try and stop that happening.
Yeah, well, we both worked out that we both had something like roughly even the numbers of terrain pieces in our deployment zone. So it was who could get across and contest the bits on the other side of the board, essentially.
Okay, I think that's quite interesting, and it's quite nice that that's how it happened.
Yeah, I know what my initial plan was, and if anyone's interested, I've written it up or ideas report, so I can send that to people. But just because I always write it up for the massive email chain Ref and Bobo I've got going with me. But my initial plan early on, noting that the Demon Prince and Trolls were deployed together centrally and hence were operating as a unit early game, was to completely ignore them and attempt to compensate with the fact I was never going to fight the Trolls, try and keep them to only scoring 1 or 2 bits of terrain and clear out the rest around the flanks by using the Alphas to, angle slightly inwards and bully the Demon Prince to stop it coming outwards, and then B, allow the Stigs and Rippers to clear up the scoring on the flanks. In practice, then one of my Alphas exploded and the other one nearly exploded and had to run away. And my Rippers died in a round before they could strike. And
to what? To Lust Chosen? Or?
Lust Warriors.
Yeah.
I'd run the math slightly wrong. I think I made an error when I did it before the event. But even so, the unit should mutually annihilate. Well, I lose the Rippers, but the Warriors get heavily depleted and can't fight Saurus anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Lust Chosen or Warriors up against Saurus should win, but parry is the big equalizer there.
Yeah, hence if I deplete the Warriors a bit, the Saurus then start winning.
Yeah, for sure.
And Stegosaurs, I know from long experience, A, eat Warriors, but B, also eat Chosen.
Yeah, well, with the Breath Weapon particularly and the Stomp.
Yeah. It's because they're not steadfast.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, yeah.
I've done it enough times to know. But it just went wrong. And Dominator Venator played well and, just capitalised on the advantages he had, and when my stuff bounced, took full advantage.
No, ultimately, it's I know you guys both hit, so it's a bit embarrassing to say, but I think it's a pretty good result for Tom, to be honest, because you're a very good player. It looks like it's actually a pretty interesting
I enjoyed it, certainly. I hope you did too.
Yeah, no, it was really good fun. I going into that, I thought I was going to lose 20. So yeah, pretty happy to get anything out of it at all. My main plan was just to try and bait you to charge something with the impact hit general, and then try and get the counter charge with my Demon Prince, or with the problem with the troll block is that because of the chaos rules you have to challenge, so you'll just happily accept that with the Carno Lord and kill the BSB.
I think I'll then lose the Carnosaur if you've still got Legion range, but yes.
Did you run the BSB in the Trolls, Tom?
I don't remember. I think he joined the troll unit later on.
You never joined. You ran in behind the entire time.
Stood behind,
yeah. That's the way.
So yes, that was definitely correct play.
You're welcome, Tommy.
I think the Demon Prince was just a little too hesitant.
Yeah, the problem is that because he's only got 4 wounds, you can't go anywhere near the terrain. Otherwise, he just dies immediately. So,
yeah,
I had to be pretty conservative with that one.
But that basically let me pressure the flanks heavily. It didn't work, but I think the Demon Prince could have been better off at least picking a side and committing to it in about turn 1 or 2.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Right, so I think the last matchup, we'll just move on to that one. I think was Colin Power against Phil Riley, was that the one we chose?
No, it was the high elf one.
Oh, it's the high elf one.
Just a heads up, by the way, my partner's going to get home very shortly and I'm going to have to drop off, so I'll let you know when that happens, but I'll carry on to school.
This is probably going to be the last thing we do anyway, Jake, so...
Sure.
That's fine. So yeah, it was John Turner against Adam Lake, which is Hope One Else for John against Adam Lake's Vermin's Form.
Yeah, my partner's home, so fairly all well.
Cheers, coming on.
No problem, thanks, Jake. So I think I said that the High Elves would win this one.
Yeah, I believe you did. And the result was 16-4 in John's favour. 16-4 makes me think that it was 20-0, but the scenario was drawn, which is very possible. I think unless there is a lot of terrain on the table, because you've got to search 2 more terrain than your opponent, draws are fairly likely.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
How did you feel 4-point scenarios worked?
I liked it. I just think it promotes playing the scenario, which, if that's what you want as a TO, is good. If what you want as a TO is just for people to throw the toys around and smash into each other, maybe that's not what you want. I thought it was fine. Thought it was good.
Yeah.
Bit of a change.
Last year it was a 5-point swing rather than a 4-point swing. So this year we took some feedback from the last year's event and made it like more than a normal game, but not as much as last year.
Okay. Yeah, obviously, none of these guys are here. I was actually playing in this round, so I don't actually know what the result, what actually happened down in this one. I think John's a very good player, ended up coming second. Adam Lake won't mind me saying, not necessarily the most committed or gifted player. Has a good go, but has a good laugh. I think they were playing Shot Hammer here, so every time something, I'm not entirely sure what the might have been units dying. I think there was significant alcohol being imbibed, so the level of play may have gone downhill during that game.
Okay.
But in any case, John's a better player, so.
How about for Giant Fanatic this weekend coming? Are you going to change your list? And maybe Tommy, if you were going to play the tournament again, would you change your list?
So I'll go first, since we have already talked about my list. So mine is a Zombie Dragon, Vampire Lord, Von Karnstein with Stormcaller, 2 Shipping Horrors, 2 Altars, 1 with the Dark Tome for the +2 to cast, because it's just too good to leave out at the moment. And then I'm not entirely sure on the core setup, but it's 1,000 points of some sort of core. And then it was a Necromancer and a Vampire Courtier BSB on a flying mount. The Vampire Courtier on a flying mount is terrible. I already said it was terrible.
What did you expect?
I already said it was trash. It was particularly trash. It did quite well in the first game, because it flew into the area of a Deep Watch block and was contributing +7 static combat resolution. But other than that, not great. No, it's just a bit of fun. I think I was talking to people on Saturday night about what I should do for the list, and Colin said to me that I'm not fooling anyone. The list is bent, so I might as well make it actually good rather than just having a gimmicky rubbish unit in there. Because either I take a more fun list overall, or I just optimize the list a bit better and just play with a smile instead of trying to fake a bad list. So I think ultimately what I'm going to do is take out the City BSB and put in probably another Necromancer, and then I've got a few points. So I think I've got another 400 points to spend. Probably Wraiths are the right choice. So probably some of those.
So no BSB.
No BSB. You probably don't need it. The BSB is nice for the characters to not crumble as much, but it's really not amazing. The only issue with the list is because I've got 20 points left in my Swift Death allowance, which is all your Vampire Knights, your Vampire Spawn, all of those. I've got no points left for support units other than Wraiths. So that's really the only choice I have left outside of characters or more core. And I don't think Baron Knights do well on their own, even if I have got a massive inspiring presence to let them march. It's just not going to work. So
maybe 1 unit is okay.
Maybe. I mean, they are quite quick.
And if you're going down the flank with your general, then you have pretty much 48 inches in between where your Baron Knights can be flanking and your units can be huddled together. Yeah,
I mean, that is the quite cool thing. So I might consider it. It just depends. Yeah, I don't know. They just are bad. They just lose to virtually anything in combat. That's the trouble. And you only got to lose by 2 and the whole unit crumbles.
Yeah, but they're toughness 4. They got a 2-up save. You can heal them back, and they're quite cheap.
Yeah, 5-man units are pretty cheap because obviously they're not designed to be taken in 5-man units, so that's why they're quite cheap. I'll have a think about it. I've got to paint anything I need for then, so that's also that. But anyway, in any case, I'm losing the trash BSB and taking probably some better picks just because I'm going to try and win the event. I'm not a horrible player. I'm a great I think I'd like to think I'm a nice guy, but I'm not fooling anybody. I'm going to take a dirty list and just try and win. So.
And how about you, Tom?
Don't worry, Jack. You weren't. No one was fooled. We all knew that was your ETC list with 500 points of bullshit tagged on the end. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, cool, fun list, Jack." Yeah. No. But on that point, how do you think people took the whole like bring a different list sort of aspect to it? Do you think they embraced that, or what do you think?
I mean, it wasn't like a mandatory thing. I wasn't doing like a Timmy comp thing where people sent lists in that were too good. I sent them back. Like I really didn't. There were only a few of the lists were what I would call so meta they were almost insulting. And like Terry's, I honestly thought was basically an ETC list with 500 points tacked on. Like, that literally is what that was, which is double king, triple block, and organ guns. Like, couldn't get much sillier than that. I thought Colin's list, although it's super strong, is out there. So in a way, although it's good, I didn't see anything wrong with it. Double Africanos, those lists are strong. They're not like
they're really fun though.
They're really fun, and like Jake's games, he finished. I'm not sure where he finished actually, fairly mid-table I think, or maybe just top half something. They produced lots of dead victory points on both sides. So I mean, they must have made for good games. In any case,
are you preparing in any way for the Danish meta? Maybe it's going to be different to the UK meta.
Basically, I think for the vampire, the zombie dragon list to win games, the zombie dragon has to push across the table, take your opponent's army off, and then you worry about objectives later. Whereas some of the lists can do it the other way around. Like I think the Saurians can sort of try and get board control with the whole army, whereas the main focus of my list is the 3 big monsters. So I think in a lot of cases I'm going to have to try and rush people, like this, which should make for some interesting games. You just got to pick whether or not you hide for one turn and wait. Like I often go second. Anyone watching, I'll usually pick for second. The altars are really strong if you get second turn, because if people want to commit into you, they have to dive on top of you, knowing they're going to take 2d6 strength 6 hits last turn if the altars are alive, which is massive. Like that takes off anything potentially, and it's a massive risk to go for that. Whereas if you're going first, obviously people can sit just outside 12. You can't hit them, and then they commit to take off things last turn. So I think going second against artillery with a dragon, if you can hide it, is massive. You pop out the turn after. Like there's lots of benefits, I think, to going second in some cases. But in a lot of cases, I think I'm going to have to push across the table quite aggressively, which is not the way I play it normally. So not the thing I'm best at, but we'll give it a go. Definitely.
I think in Denmark, the top lists are quite defensive. Well, like the top players are quite defensive. Like the ETC guys and some of the guys that I play regularly, they're quite defensive, and then they hang back, and then they'll pounce when the time is right. So I think your list will maybe work quite well because it's maybe more aggressive than what they're used to seeing.
What's also really quite fun about it, because you have 24 inches of Inspiring Presence, because you've got a vampire with Von Carson, which is +6, on a Tyrant Presence, which is another +6, means that you can deploy most of the army almost in one corner and the rest almost in the other corner, which normally you can't do with vampires. And I think it does actually make a difference. So you can start dropping stuff on the middle or sort of like 2/3 of the way along the board, and your opponent has to start dropping stuff, and then you can just deploy anywhere you like with the rest, because you'll always be able to march things. And I think that is super powerful.
That will help with the scenarios as well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty strong. I think vampirists who aren't running Von Karnstein will struggle in scenarios if they don't have quick scoring. So I'd be interested to see what the other vampirists are running, because I think the traditional slow ETC style lists with big blocks have a lot of issues in some of these scenarios, I think.
Let me just see how many people have said they're playing vampires, and I can tell you. We made like a little poll on the Danish Ninth Age Facebook group. if you want to join it, it's 9th Age in Denmark. I think you guys are both actually members. I probably added you.
I think we are, yeah.
Yeah, I am. I try and troll you with comments every now and again.
Yeah, I know. There's 3 people saying they'll play vampires, including you, Jack.
Oh, sweet. Best vampires for me then, hopefully.
Ooh,
But
confidence.
yeah, Kerr from the Danish ETC team is playing vampires. He's a pretty good player.
Who?
Kerr.
Okay, yeah.
Core.
Yeah, he's going to beat your ass, Jack.
Yeah, probably will, actually.
Are you going to grudge anyone, Jack?
I don't know. I think the guy who got me drunk quite a lot of times in Spain, I think is Jens. Is that somebody?
There's quite a few Jens.
Yeah, no, so I beat one of the ETC players. I don't know if there's more than one on the team. But
I don't know, to be honest.
Good grudge that guy. He seemed a bit of a laugh. I'm sure we get the beers in any case. I don't know. I don't know enough people really. I'll have to look through the entrance list if there's anyone I remember from Hammer last year.
Yeah.
Got from those guys.
I think most of them will be there.
Well, I think this time I've got my own army because last time it got delayed in the mail. So
You're not going to send it this time.
No. I had to borrow Christopher's Warriors army. Never played Warriors before, so that was an interesting experience.
I'm lending my Warriors out, so if you lose your army, then you can't borrow my Warriors.
No worries.
I think we'll call it a night there.
Yeah, no worries, that's fine. Thought it went pretty well. So
Oliver's saying, he just wrote to me, says that you should grudge the handsome ogre player from the warm-up.
Handsome ogre player from the warm-up. Is that him?
I don't know.
Sounds like it.
Was there a handsome ogre player?
Sounds like it. To be fair, I think I tabled a lot of ogre players in the warm-up, so I don't mind. No, I don't mind. I'll play anybody really. I'm up for it. I'm going. Put it this way. I'm going balls deep. So going for points.
So if any Danish people are watching and want to see Jack go balls deep, then you're welcome to crush Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm up for it. I mean, I'm not flying out. Is it 6 games or 5 games?
5 games.
5 games. Yeah, I mean, I'm not flying out to play and sit in the corner. So I wasn't going to take a boring vampire list. We're taking a fighty vampire list. All right. Thanks to anyone who did tune in and watch. Don't know how often we're going to do anything like this, but I think Henry wants to do more, not necessarily just with me, but related to 9th Age in general, chats about various topics.
Yeah, the idea with this is just to kind of get the ball rolling. Lord Tremendous has unfortunately left the content team, so I want to try and get this going a bit more often. So if there's people who would like to come on the square table, which we'll keep the name, and have an interview or just talk about something, then you're welcome to get in touch with me on the forum. That's at Henry P. Miller. Or you can just give us an email, ammertimedk@gmail.com. On the square table chat if you have something interesting to talk about. If you're on the content team yourself, just stay tuned on the content team forum, and I'll post up on there every so often when we're planning on doing something like this again.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think if I've got it right, the plan is there's not really much of a format. We can talk about whatever anyone wants to. I might be around, I might not be on them. It's entirely up to Henry, really. But ultimately, it doesn't have to be very long. It could be shorter than this. I mean, we've gone quite long today, but honestly, I think a lot of the time it's probably going to be close to 40 minutes, maybe more than 3 hours. I don't know.
Yeah, an hour is probably perfect for midweek.
Because also, put it this way, if anyone's going to sit and listen or watch this, they may not want to stick around for that long as well. So I think everyone understands that. And yeah, so thanks again for anyone coming and watching. Thanks to Jake and Tom for coming on and imparting their wisdom. And I'll see. I'm on the 9th Age forum. I'm at Eternal Flitter, which is the I'm head of hobby animation at the moment. I'm not entirely sure what I do, but I do something. Tom is on the 9th Age forum a little bit.
Yeah, just occasionally. I'm Tommy Tucker, so you can find me there if you want to. I don't know, whatever.
He comes on and trolls quite a lot.
If you want to send some like dick pics or
send dick
anything,
pics. Yeah, send dick
anything
pics.
stupid, just send them to his. Just call him shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do that. Do that.
Anyway, I've closed the show like 3 times now, so we're actually going to do it this time. Thanks for watching. It's been going up on my my YouTube
Thanks,
channel.
guys.
Cheers, Tom.
Yeah, maybe we can do a post Giant Fanatic interview with you and see how you went.
Yeah, no worries. That sounds good. So next time I see Henry, be in Denmark.
Trilogy.
So yeah.
Yeah, perfect, mate. I'll see you on Friday.
Yeah. Cheers. All right. See you.
Have a nice evening, guys.
Cheers,